Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical, informative and inspirational. How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do. Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
What's going on, man?
Ramónt Morris, how you doing, sir?
Good. How about you?
Good. What's up, Reginald Curry?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
What's up, Curry?
Mr. Swinton, the celebrity, how you doing today, sir? Good to have you in.
Doing good, brothers. How y'all doing?
Representing Coach Reggie Swinton, I see. I gotta get me Coach Reggie Swinton here. Let me get a couple of minutes to get some of the people to come in. If y'all want to share the screen now's a good time to share those of us who can. I need to share a couple of Here we go. A few more people in here. Like I said, we're going on farther. What's up, Shantae? What's up, Randy? Everybody, if you will, please share the stream, and we get ready to get this conversation started in about a minute, 1 minute and 20 seconds. We're gonna get the conversation started. And if you're in the chat, let me know where you are, where you're from. Little Rock, Brooklyn, New York, Atlanta. Where you listening from? Let me know. I can kind of make the conversation as organic and relative as possible. Y'all know I like my little music, so I like to groove to it for a second. Arkansas, the answer's from Arkansas. Who else? Randy Sherwood, Arkansas. Randy, thank you for sharing it. Shantae, thank you for sharing. We lost Reggie Curry. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. What's up, Myra? Myra, listen from Decatur, Georgia. All right. We're ready to get this thing started tonight. Like I said, if you're in the chat, do me a favor. Let me know where you're listening from, and let me know you're there. But we want to have a dialogue tonight. Reggie and C. Ramónt Morris and myself, and I'm sure Reggie will be back in a moment. We're gonna have a little conversation here, but we want y'all to have a dialogue there in the comments. So please, ma'am, please, sir, let me know that you're there, and we're going to go ahead and get this conversation started. First of all, I have with me tonight, and I'm proud to say that I have with me, is former NFL player. I guess you're a little older now. You probably don't play football no more. But can you hear me? You can hear me good? Okay, good. So we got former NFL player Reginald Swinton. Come on, Reggie. What's up, man? Tell everybody who you are. Tell them what you do. Give us a brief introduction of who Reggie Swinton is, please, sir.
Oh man, I guess you could say I played for the Cowboys. Not too proud to say that right now, but I played for the Cowboys, Detroit Lions, Arizona Cardinals. I retired in 2006, and I came back home, and now I run a youth football program, and I have my own clothing line, my own sportswear, as y'all can see, called CR Sports. So that's what I'm doing right now, is coaching kids and pushing my brand.
That's good, man. So let me ask you a question. That's really why I got you all on tonight. I wanted at first I was going to do a show on all coaches, and I was going to bring coaches in from football, basketball, baseball, and look at the different dynamics of coaching. But after last week's show, and last week we had a really, really good show. I got a lot of feedback on it. We talked about fathering and all those types of things. We got a bunch of feedback, and they asked us to come back with a part 2 of that conversation. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to look at the universal nature of fathering. I was reading an article today, and when they talked about fathering, they almost talked about fathering almost as a calling. You know, even though we have our own children, even everywhere we go, we're still fathers, whether our children are there or not. And so we have a tendency of putting, it's not a robe or an outfit that you can put on and take off, and I ever stop being a father. Sometimes this fathering just kicks in. You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted to kind of expand our conversation tonight, and not only have fathers in 3 different capacities. Because number one, I have Ramónt Morris. He's a homeboy from from Morrison, Arkansas. He's a pastor there in Brooklyn. Did I say right? Brooklyn, New York. And then I have Reggie Curry. He keeps going. He'll be right back. But he is an administrator / athletic director at a local high school here in Atlanta. And then we got you, Reggie, who is over a youth football organization. How many kids in your organization?
About 600.
600?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you had. So I know you probably don't know. Huh?
In my entire football league. I have a league.
Okay.
I have a league, yeah. But my team itself has about 100 kids.
And so, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my 6U, 8U, 10U, and 12U. So my 4 different teams, total has about 100 kids.
And so, but 600 in the in your league total.
Yeah.
Well, the 600, if you had to guess, what percentage would you say are have single mothers?
65, 70.
70% of single. So in that regard, you and your assistant coaches a lot of times have to step in and be that father figure. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. But it's a job that we signed up for. I know a lot of these kids, they look up to me more so as a dad than coach.
Okay.
A lot of these kids, when they get done playing for me, they still reach out to me. In fact, I've talked to a lot of my kids who are in high school and some down in college. As I put on Facebook yesterday, in my 9 years of having my program, I've got 4 kids right now playing college football, and I've got 6 with offers right now. So that's kids that came through my program and graduated out. Now they're in college or in high school, and I still stay in contact with each and every last one of them. But as far as the kids we have now, it's more than just coaching. It's more than coaching. A lot of these kids, they don't have a male figure, period.
Gotcha.
And a lot of these mothers rely on us.
Okay.
In more ways than one, to be that male figure in their kids' lives.
Well, that's a wonderful thing, and we're going to continue that conversation. But listen, let me read this right here. The media plays a large role in how Black fathers are viewed in society. There are many media myths that should be addressed and dispelled related to Blacks in general and Black dads in particular. For example, media reports or depictions often misrepresent Black fathers as absentee dads who abandon their children by connecting non-marital births with parental involvement. Research tells us, however, that many Black fathers are deeply engaged with their children, and physical separation is not always synonymous with lack of father involvement. According to sociologist Patricia Hill Collins, these controlling images shape people's thinking about certain groups after being exposed to negative representations repeatedly. Left unchecked, they make policy and lawmakers unsympathetic to the plight of Black dads. So that's something I want to do, is I want to start to debunk some of the negative myths that seem to suggest that Black dads are just 100% absent for whatever reason or whatever, because I mean, there are always extenuating circumstances for everything that takes place. But all the dads I know are actively involved. I remember one time, Corey, I had started a church up in Dalton, Georgia. What's up, Gideon? I started a church in Dalton, Georgia, and one day I was doing a big function on the parking lot, and the ice cream man came, and all of a sudden, one dude bought every kid on that parking lot ice cream. You know who he was? The so-called local kingpin, or the so-called big dope dealer, or whoever he was supposed to be, right? But he had children, and he had a heart for children. And so even then, people always took care of, Black men have always taken care of the well, back when we were growing up, I take that back. When we were growing up, they took care of the younger generation. Do you find that a lot, even though, Reggie, you got 65, 70% single mothers, do you find support coming from even guys, dope dealers, whoever, ex-athletes, anybody that still want to just make sure that the kids succeed?
I'll be honest with you. Very few.
Very few, okay.
Very few, yeah.
What's the dynamic like there?
Well, it's a thing. Normally, nowadays, a lot of these youth football coaches are dads.
Okay.
You rarely find those who just want to give their time up. They're normally coaching their kids. And that's what I truly call daddy ball. Now, we can appreciate them, but on my staff, I look for men that's going to be there long after their kids are gone.
Okay.
That's more important to me, because you got to touch more than just your kid. And I feel like we as Black men were obligated to help out not only Black kids, period. A lot of us say just Black kids.
That's true.
I basically don't care what nationality you are.
Mm-hmm.
I've had all kinds of kids in my house. I've had white kids with no daddies.
Mm-hmm.
So, my mission, my calling, my journey, my path in life is to help anybody who I can. And that's, I give up a lot of money, a lot of time, but it's something that I believe was my calling from my days of retiring back in 2006, and I love it.
You love it. Okay, and I'm gonna ask you this question, Reggie Curry. As you grew up, I guess we'll call you Reginald for the show and let Reggie Swinton be Reggie. Well, Reginald for the show. So you get to say Reggie, if you got your brand, you get to say Coach Reggie on the show tonight, because you got to see how popping it. I get it. But Reginald, did you find growing up? Because I know you told me that your grandparents raised you last week, right?
Yes.
Did you find like, was there a community dad or somebody else down the street who had a dad that everybody, all the boys in the neighborhood kind of looked up to that dad?
Pretty much. I mean, in the country, I mean, everybody's dad and mom on that road we was on. So no matter where you went up and down, like Burns Road in Appleton, Georgia, everybody was your dad, everybody was your mom. So if you did anything wrong, everybody had the right to correct you or whatnot. So it wasn't like we had this specific person that we all looked up to. It was like this whole street is related. So if you act up or you do anything wrong, you got consequences where you at, and when you get home, you're gonna have consequences as well. So it was more of a community thing than anything.
Got you. Because I found that to be true, especially with my father. My father, I had to share. Oh, hey, Nikki Jenkins, how you doing? Karen Hayes. I found that dynamic, Corey. I had to share my dad with everybody because everybody just knew my dad. I never will forget, Reggie. One time, my dad was 5'11", but he could jump out the gym, right? So I never will forget. We had to be about the 7th, 8th, maybe 9th grade, and we were all at North Heights Recreation Center. We were up there playing basketball, and my dad had come in, man. I ain't gonna lie, it was a little embarrassing because he had on this green and yellow outfit, and then he had on these white socks pulled up to his all the way up his calves with a green and yellow stripe around the socks, right? And everybody, when he walked in, everybody just started, Mr. Kirk started making fun of his socks and all that kind of stuff. And he said, throw me that ball, boy. And one of them threw him the ball, then he ran up and he dunked the basketball and then walked out the gym. And everybody was, but everybody looked up to him as that community father, because even though he was my father, I don't know, I really didn't know who had dads or who didn't have dads, but I had to share my father with everyone else. Corey, do you find that dynamic to be true still now, even in your church and whatnot?
Yes. I'm sitting here thinking about it, my context in which I was born and raised, West End community of Martin, Arkansas. My dad was my grandfather, Clifton Robertson, but there were so many other men in the community that carried themselves, conducted themselves, had the character and integrity that if they never called you son, they still acted and functioned like a father.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And you could still learn from them and look up to them. And and it's the same way in the church. Of course, things haven't changed very much with the attending demographic of the church. It's still mostly women, but the few men that are there, do have a fatherly nature to them. That's helpful to kids, to girls and boys, and to single mothers, and so I see that element. Not as much as I would like to see it, but but it's definitely present.
And that's what Granberry just said. It could still be that way if folk weren't so picky about folks saying stuff to their kids. Well, and do you find that, Reggie? Or Reggie Swinton, would you not allow people to communicate with your kids? Like for instance, do the moms say anything, get on to y'all for getting on to the kids, the coaches for getting on to the kids, or would you not allow them in the program if they were to limit that?
Well, here's the thing. I have my parent meeting every late March or April, and I tell all my new parents, if you can't take me being hard on your child, it's the wrong team for you. Okay. I'm an old school coach. I fuss. I yell. I'll never curse your kid. I'll never hit your kid. But I'm going to coach you the only way I know how, and that's how I was coached. My coaches, now back in our day, our coaches, they cursed, and they grabbed our face masks, and they yanked us around. That's something you cannot do these days. So I don't do that.
Okay.
But I get after my kids really hard. And I tell my parents, if you cannot take that, that's the wrong team for you, because I'm only getting on to your kid because it's what made me successful. I don't know how to do anything that's not successful. So everything I touch is successful, from my youth football team to my businesses to my marriage to my children. So I can only teach your kid what I know. I can't teach your kid how to drive an 18-wheeler because I ain't never drove one. But I can teach your child how to be a man, to be a young man. I can teach your child football. I can teach your child a lot of discipline. I can't teach him how to sag no pants, how to be no thug, how to smoke no weed, because I ain't never done that.
Oh, man.
I ain't never done that. So I can only teach you what I know, and that's how to be a young male.
Well, you said something that was really, really key. And what you said is you're going to teach them football, you're going to teach them discipline. And what people mess up and do sometimes, because there's such a fine line between discipline and abuse. There's a very fine line. And the element that makes discipline is the love that fuels discipline. You understand what I'm saying? Because discipline is to me, discipline is what you produce. You understand what I'm saying? Abuse, if I Reggie, you remember when back in the day when our sons played baseball and we went and played on a particular team. I never would forget Coach Reggie, man. My son was 10 then. And that was just when they were starting to throw the change up. And this particular coach kept saying, don't swing at the change up. Don't swing at the change up. And then would holler at the kids. I told you not to swing at the changeup. So my son gets in the car and says, Dad, I ain't swinging at strike three ever again. I'm never swinging. I said, why? Because he said, because coach is going to holler at me. And I'm like, how can he holler? How do you know what the changeup is? So I had a conversation with him. And he asked, he said, do y'all have a problem with us hollering at your kids? I said, yeah. He said, why? He said, they're going to holler at him in high school. I said, well, he's 10. If he might stop playing now and don't want to play in high school because you ran him away. I said, let him learn the game first. And to me, and I'm asking this is the question for you too, Coach Reggie, because I know I got you the first 30 to 45 minutes for that. I told that coach, I said, you got to understand, you can't coach 10-year-old baseball like you coach 15-year-old basketball because they're two different mentalities. Speak to that for me. What do you think there's a difference in mentality in coaching certain?
No, I disagree with you on that.
Okay.
You're coaching to perfection.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give you a prime example of that. I got a really good kid of mine who's going to be a 5-star recruit, just totally awesome. The kid named Darren Owens. He scored a really big touchdown for us a couple years ago in the game, and everybody gets yelling for him and excited. And I run down and I catch him and I grab him. And I said, and I fuss at him. Like, he's wondering, why you fussing? I scored a touchdown. Well, I was fussing because you're supposed to carry the football like this, not like this, right?
Okay.
So as he's running, someone could come up from behind him and poke the ball out, and instead of him scoring, now it's their ball the other way. See,
Gotcha.
It's little things that win and lose ball games. See, everybody want to congratulate you when you do something well. For me, how I coach is I look at how can I make you better. That's in whatever sport it is, whether it's baseball, basketball, track, whatever I coach. The parents, everybody else is going to pat you on the back. That's not my job. My job is to make you better as a coach so that when you move up to school ball, you know to hold the ball like this and not like this, so it doesn't hurt your chance of being recruited.
I guess. And I'm going to listen to you because you signed the contracts. You're a professional. Look, you played on TV. Hey, for those that don't know, Reggie, you played for Little Rock Central, right?
Little Rock Central, yeah.
Little Rock Central. Then you went to Murray State.
Yeah.
And then after you left Murray State, that's when you got drafted, or did you get signed?
No. So I had a long, hard road. So during my career, I played 5 years. But in the midst of that 5 years, I got cut by 9 different teams and traded twice.
Okay.
So I played 5 years on 5 one-year contracts. So every year I had to go out and prove myself. So my road, I wasn't no draft pick.
Wow.
I never had no big contract, but I worked hard, and I was able to stay in there and get my 401k and get my pension. Thus, I live a decent life. I'm 46 years old, and the main thing I did was I set my family up for the future. My 401k, my pension, God forbid something happened to me, my wife and my kids will be good. So although I didn't play a long time, as a man, I set my family up for longevity.
How many children do you have?
4. I got 25, 23, 22, and 19. I get my youngest son is going to Jackson State here in a couple of weeks to go play for Dion.
All right. Okay. And you got a grandbaby, because I see she got you wrapped all the way around your son.
Oh, boy, look, if I could have skipped parenthood and went right to grandparenthood, according to my grandbaby, I don't really love my kids like I thought I did. that grandbaby hit differently, man. She hit differently. But
you know what, man? We get it wrong. We get a chance, because I don't care what nobody says. This whole parenting thing is OJT, right? It's on the job training, man. And, I ain't gonna lie, I probably sucked with my 23-year-old. You know what I'm saying? But by the time we got to this 18-year-old, this autopilot, she say she want to do something, like, whatever, I don't care. I ain't fighting. Yeah, okay, as long as they don't hurt yourself, we good. But, that whole dynamic changes so much when you start bringing in, so I can only imagine. I mean, I don't think I'm anywhere close to having grandbabies. I ain't got no wood to knock on, so I knock on my head. But that whole dynamic changes. But man, let's talk. And Corey and Reginald, we're gonna get you all a little bit later, because Reggie's gonna be with us the first 30 or 45 minutes. Then we're gonna kind of transition. So let's talk about this, because I studied leadership development. Now, leadership development usually says it takes about 10 years to really see a program really start to implement what its intent is, right? And so you said that the Arkansas Lions have been around for 9 years now?
Yeah, 9 years.
And you got 4 in college already?
No, my oldest son, he's a school teacher.
Okay.
And then my daughter, she's a junior in college. She's the one with the baby.
No, I'm talking about out of your program, out of your Arkansas Lions program.
Oh, yeah. So I got 4. I got one that just signed with OU. So
Okay. Yeah, I
he
saw
played
that.
for OU. Yeah, man.
Okay,
Robert Jennings Spears. Yeah, I was in Robert Spears Jennings. He played for me our first year. In fact, in my program, he's got the first ever touchdown in our program when my youth football team played Deion Sanders' youth football team in Atlanta.
Wow.
Yeah.
And man, and y'all, and those in the chat, please do me a favor, share this thread, like the video, do it, share this thread, and do me a favor, tag 5 fathers if you can. If you know 5 fathers, tag them. They need to be listening to this conversation as well. So share this, because we got Reggie Swinton on tonight, and Reggie is the proprietor / owner / coach of the Arkansas Lions, a program that's been in existence for 9 years. Probably 65-70% of those children are children of single mothers. He has to assume the role, along with his coaches, of being mentors / father figures to many of those children, based on with no discrimination whatsoever. And so we really wanted to get him on tonight and talk about that. Now, what I like is that, and what really got my attention is the opportunities he's providing for those in my home state. He started out, with what did you start out with? How many teams did you start out with the first year?
In my program or in my league? In my program, 3.
Okay. What ages?
3. That was 8U, 10U, and 12U. Then we added 6U in year number 2. We added 6U in 2014.
Okay. And so now I've noticed that you have started to do the 7-on-7 thing, right?
I do the 7-on-7. I have a nationwide all-star game. I had my first one back in Fort Worth in July. I just had one in Las Vegas last week where we had 147 kids in Las Vegas representing 27 different states. I've got my next all-star event in June right here in Little Rock where I've got a bunch of pro players coming in, Rocket Ismail, Quincy Carter, Roy Williams, the receiver, Roy Williams, the safety. I've got Kevin Williams, Coach Houston Nutt, Donald Driver. So I got all those guys coming in town for my big all-star game. That one should have about 300 kids. And then I'm so big tournament.
Scouts and stuff come to those things?
Huh?
Are those kids being scouted at this time? Are they old enough to be scouted yet, or are they young still?
So believe it or not, it'll be 7th to 8th graders here, and there will be scouts here watching them because now kids are getting offered in the 8th grade. And
What?
this type of event here, oh yeah, we got a kid right here named Kane Archer he's in 8th grade, plays at Greenwood. Been offered by Arkansas, Missouri, USC, and Oklahoma, I think. No, sorry, Michigan. He's in 8th grade, stud quarterback. So these kids now are getting offers more, sooner now. But I want to tell you a story real fast. I know these gentlemen want to talk as well, and I don't want to be the only one talking. But I want to tell you a story about a kid in my program that this kid means the world to me. I won't say his name, but when he first came to us our first year in 2013, his mom came to our practice and she wanted to know who the head coach was. So she called my name out, or they pointed me, and I walked over to her, and she said, "Coach, Reggie," she's like, "My son, he wants to play football. He doesn't see men in positive manners." She said, "And all he's seen is men come and go through my house." As you guys probably know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to provide for him. So she said he curses a lot. He needs discipline. So I said, no problem. I'll take him home. Little did I did not know what I was taking on. So as we out there in practice and we practicing, and this little kid, 8 years old, and he's just cursing like he's a grown man. And so my coaches were like, "Are you sure you want to keep him?" I said, "Well, I told his mom that we as black men gonna work with him." Mm-hmm. About a week into it, we're doing conditioning. So I tell the kids to go line up, and I blow the whistle, and they run down and run back. So I blew the whistle. He went down and came back. They get a 45-second break. So I blew it again. Everybody ran. He stood there. So I said, I called him John. So I said, "John, run." He said, quote, "Coach, I ain't running shit." So he said loud. So I said, come here. I said, what you say? He said, Coach, I ain't running shit. I'm tired, right? So I said, oh my God. So as time went on, another one of my coaches said, this kid will destroy your program. We got to let him go. I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. That kid stuck with us that year until he aged out. That kid got turned his whole life around. Grades came up. You know, I went to his school with him. I went to have lunch with him. I had gentlemen's club with him. I would go to his school, dress up in a suit, go hang out with him. And to this day, if you call that kid right now, you can't say nothing bad about Coach Reggie. He would knock you out. Now, he still cuss a little bit, but not like he used to. But he's a senior in high school now, and that kid loves me to death. And it's all because I chose not to give up on him.
Yeah.
Who knows where he would be? He called me on FaceTime. He got a job at school. He's working now. He quit football. That hurt. I mean, big tough lineman, but he quit football. But he's working, and he's helping his mom pay bills. And his mom said, "Coach, if it wasn't for you, I don't know where my son would be at right now."
What was it that you saw that made you stick with it?
Not that I've seen something. I mean, I promised his mom that we work with him. And against my coach's wishes, because he was a detriment to my team. He had a lot of kids scared of him. He was a flat out thug life as an 8-year-old kid. All he seen was men come and go to his house. So he didn't trust no man because his mom was bringing him in and out because she was trying to pay the bills. So he had no respect for men at all, no men. So I used to pick him up, take him home. I remember Thanksgiving 2016. I fed his family. Well, I say me and my coaches fed his family. Then that same year, we bought him some shoes for Christmas, bought him and his brother a bike for Christmas. And we just showed him his brother love.
That's good.
And, I got on to him. I stayed on him. But more important, I was there for him more than anybody else was. And that's what he finally seen, somebody who cared about it. And that's my baby to this day. He's a senior in high school.
And that's a famous quote. People won't really know how much you know, care how much you know, until they should know how much you care.
Yep.
And once they know how much you care, that's what they respond to. And I'm gonna get into some statistics a little bit later in the show that shows how much more positively children respond when they have a strong, dominant male figure in their lives. They're less likely to get on drugs, less likely to get incarcerated, less likely, because they know that we require certain different types of consequences, and we're gonna put that boot down if they don't. But you some of that's what Ashley just said. You gave him the confidence to trust again, and even if you didn't give him the confidence to trust again, you definitely gave him the confidence to trust, because he might not have ever had anybody to trust, but he saw a man who had proven himself, a man, number one, as A.B. Ridgway just said, who honored his word. And that's something that needs to be, because you never know how many times Daddy said he was going to show up to take him out to eat pizza and didn't show up, or somebody else said they were going to show up for him and didn't show up.
Well, he didn't know his daddy. He don't know his daddy. He didn't know his daddy.
Exactly.
So he didn't know his daddy, and his older brother was already in prison. So it was him, his older brother, and younger brother. So his mom feared that he was going to go where the older brother was.
Okay.
And I recall one night, although it was about 11:30 at night, he actually called me from his mom's phone, like, Coach Reggie, I'm hungry. And I stayed 20 minutes from him. I didn't really want to because I was so tired. But I got up, I went to McDonald's, got him and his brother and mama some food, and I fed them. And again, all it takes, people, all y'all who are listening, you ain't got to be like me and my coaches and try to help out all these kids. Just pick you one child. You don't know what you would do for that child. It just so happened to be, this is my ministry. It's my calling.
Okay.
And I remembered, what Dick Gregory said a long time ago, and this quote sticks with me. He says, when you die, people ain't going to care about the size of your house, the amount of money you made, or the kind of car you drove. God want to know, what did you do for my children while you were here?
Wow.
What you do for my children. And that quote stuck with me. And I swear, this is not a brag on myself session, but if you guys truly, truly knew me and knew what I did for a lot of kids. I ain't saying I'm rich. I'm not rich.
Okay.
But I do okay.
Okay.
I do my best to help out as many kids, parents, and my wife doesn't say a word.
That's good. That's good.
She doesn't ask how much money I spent on this kid's shoes or this kid's bike or nothing. She knows I do it, and through the blessings of that, God blesses me with people supporting my business with my online sales. And these are people who don't know me, but they see what I do on Facebook, and they see me in these kids' schools, and they see me coaching these kids and putting these kids in these big-time events. You got to show these kids you care, and your life will change.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. And it's good to have. Let's look and see what some of the comments are saying. Latasha Goodson said, "Seems like you were the person that kid needed. So many of our children are crying out for help, but people continue to let them down and give up on them. You met that young man right where he was." Kanika Boone, she's a school teacher that works with special ed children. She said children need something that's real, and especially these days, the consistency and love, and that's the key thing. The consistency and love, she said, speaks volumes. So she was amening you all the way through everything that you were just saying. So we want you're definitely to be commended for all the things that you do, and because there's so many ramifications and extensions to what you offer. You know, you give them team sports. There, then you give them discipline. You give them an opportunity to get an education if they decide to go farther with the whole college football thing. It's so many seeds that you're planting, and you start planting those seeds at the age of 6. And those that go through your organization until the age of 12, 13, 14, that's a long time that you're in those individuals' lives. If you got a kid, and I'm sure you have some, like some of your ones that started with you when you say you started with 8-year-olds, right? So your 8-year-olds now, 9 years or later, are going into college. Mm-hmm. And out of that, you've already seen the fruit of your labor because you got 4 kids playing scholarships and got 9 more to go. And you cracked the D1. You cracked the Power 5 with an Oklahoma signee, so you are obviously doing something right. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate that, man. And like I said, that was something that was attractive to me. Not only, and I've also watched how you handle your own sons as well, because the things that you made public, I don't know everything, but some things you made, the things that you made public, I'm sure you didn't make everything public. We never do. But the things that you did, you were there for your children. And those are things that are to be commended. How long have you been married, if you don't mind me asking?
I've been with my wife for 22 years in April. She had 2 kids prior. They were 4 and 2 when I met them. They are 26 and 24 now. And then I had a child by my first wife. He's the one who's 22. And then my wife and I have a 19-year-old son together. The beautiful thing about this is, for any male that coaches or that's been to where I've been in life as far as pro football, it's so hard to coach your own kids. It's so hard to coach. If I tell my son something, it's like, you're dad, you're not coach. But let one of y'all come tell them the same thing I just told them, it's platinum. It's like, oh, it's the best thing said. And that happened to my 22-year-old when he was playing for Central High School. I was teaching my son how to catch punts. And, of course, I did it for a living.
Yeah.
And he would never get the elbows in when the ball comes, give with it. I would say, son, give with the ball in case you drop it, you're already down there. He would never do it. So I go watch him practice at Central one day, and the coach that's coaching him was actually my junior high coach. And so I'm watching my junior high coach go out there and tell him, elbows in, give with the ball. The next punt that comes, he does it. Oh, I get out of the bleachers and go down on the field. Just the one time I did snatch up my own son. And I said, how you going to listen to somebody who's never done it in a game as opposed to your dad who's done it? But if you cannot, it's hard to coach your own kids.
Yeah, I believe
because they don't see you as coach. They see you as dad. On the field, they say dad. They don't say coach.
Oh, wow.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to differentiate that. But listen, one of the things I'll tell y'all is that people ask about tithing and going to church, and Pastor knows this. You're supposed to tithe. And I remember about 4 years ago, I said, you know what? My tithing is going to go to the kids. So no, I don't tithe to a church. I give to the children. I give to the parents. And I feel like that's my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the football field is my church, and I'm preaching to the parents and the kids. Now, Pastor, how do you feel about that? I'm curious to want to know that.
That's a setup, Corey. He set you up.
Well, it's an easy answer. It's biblically incorrect.
Okay.
You know, God tells us what to do with the tithe. He said, brings it to the storehouse.
To the storehouse.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it
Now,
says.
if you want to do things for kids and parents and stuff like that, that's nothing wrong with that. But it should not take the place of your tithe. That's just Bible. That's not my opinion. That's what the Bible says.
That's true.
Yes,
That's
sir.
true. And that is true.
Because I want to know. So
I got
that's
you.
good. And I appreciate you for asking that question. If somebody else needs to, because people have always thought I can tithe my time and I can tithe my, I can tithe the other things, but no, the Bible does say bring it into the storehouse.
Let me give a little more context to that. See, we live in a physical world, and the world system is set up where we need money to survive in order to do certain things. I mean, there's no way around that. But when you're saved, though you live in the kingdoms, quote unquote, of the world, America, you could call it a kingdom, though we don't have a king, we have a president and all the other nations or whatever. Jesus, when he came, he said, my kingdom is not of this world. So he didn't come to establish a physical kingdom, but a spiritual kingdom. And so when you tithe, you are basically, one of the things that you're doing a lot of things, you're being obedient to scripture, but what you're also doing, you're giving to something that is eternal versus something that is temporal. And so when we go to the store and buy clothes, that's temporal because it won't last long. When we buy a car, that's temporal. It won't last long. But when you give to a spiritual organization, or organism is probably better, which is the church, you're giving to something that is in the business of saving lives of those who have an expiration date physically, but they will live on eternally. And so when you give to the church, you are saying, I identify with the cause of Christ in the earth, and I'm giving my physical resources to something that is not temporal, but eternal in its methodology, eternal in its practice, eternal in its mission, versus, the many other things that we could do with our monies. Hope that makes sense.
it does.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Pastor, thank you for that explanation. And Reggie, thanks for asking that question, man, for real, because some people didn't understand that, and that really needs to be. And but you know what's funny though? I've learned when you do give your time, when you give those other things, that you really don't miss them. You know what I'm saying? You don't miss them. You don't miss them. Hey, but Reginald, I'm gonna ask you a question because you coached your son at an earlier age, and from what Reginald's son plays professional baseball in the Cleveland Indians organization. He got about a 95 mile per hour fastball, and he has a curveball that'll rock you to sleep for real. But he was really good at football at a young age. And so, what made you make that change to as a father, going to full-time baseball over football?
That was
When you know you got to leave, let me know. I know because I ain't gonna hold you no longer, and you got to stay here. So just let me know you got to roll. I understand. So, for real.
that was a decision that was made once he got to high school, because both sports require a lot of time, and him being a quarterback, most coaches gonna want their quarterback there for practice, condition, and things of that nature. So, and then baseball, playing with East Cobb, you gone Monday through Friday, Monday through the week, Saturday, on the weekends, all the way to Sunday. So for him having to go from baseball practice then to football practice, get up at 6 in the morning, go do this and do that. And then the football coach was more so like, if you're going to be a starting quarterback, I need you here. So I just think when it came time for him to make a decision, he was like, Dad, I want to play baseball.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm a football person. Of course I want him to play football because I played quarterback and whatnot. So, but once he made that decision, it was a decision that he made, and that's what we went with.
Gotcha. All right, so Reggie Swinton, what would you, as a coach, what would you say to other coaches as it relates to dealing, especially with children with no father? What kind of advice would you, and we'll kind of let this be your segue, what kind of advice would you give them as far as being there for those kids and what kind of value they should add and all those types of things?
You gotta, it's so many coaches coaching for the wrong reason. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
Wow.
Okay.
They're coaching for the mamas, if you know what I mean.
Oh wow.
They're not coaching for the right reason. And the thing about that is kids can pick up on that. They can pick up on, like Pastor said, who is really there for them, who is in their lives that they know they can call on. I look for coaches who are gonna be dedicated. This is like a full-time job when you do what I do. I have a lawn care company, but if you guys notice, I ain't mentioned that. That's my main source of income with my employees. But that allows me to fund this, and they both allow me to fund my football team, which allows me to help kids. And you don't have to put money into kids. Time. Some of these kids just want time.
That's true, man.
Take them to go get a 4-for-4. You just don't know what that'll mean for them. You just don't know. Asking the kid how their day was, or you don't know how many kids look forward to going to school just so they can get the school breakfast and the school lunch. That's their dinner for the day. So when you talk to these kids and you ask these kids what do they love. Listen, one of my kids that played for me our first 2 years got murdered last week. And I went to.
Wow. My bad.
She squeezed me so tight. She said, Coach, my son was 20 years old, and all he talked about was you and Coach J. Now, Coach J is Coach J. Me and Coach J spent the most time with him when he was 12 and 13 years old. She said all he talked about was the Arkansas Lions, Coach Reggie, and Coach J. Turns out this mother has lost 3 sons to gun violence. He was the third one. She lost one in 2016, one in 2019, and she just lost Drew to a senseless cell phone argument that he was trying to stop 2 people from arguing. One person got mad and shot him in the chest and killed him. And he was just trying to break up an argument.
Wow, man.
And so when she said, Coach Reggie, you're all that he talked about, you and James, that meant something to me. Because although I haven't seen him in about 4 or 5 years, Coach James and I touched that kid in a way that he always talked about us. See, you want to infect kids and you want to affect kids.
Yeah.
You want to make sure those kids remember you for the love you showed them, and that goes a long way with how they treat people.
That's good. That's good, Reggie. Infect kids and affect kids. I'm writing that down. I got to make a banner on that one. I got to make a banner. Is that all you have for us? We got any more? Anything else you'll tell them?
No, I just appreciate y'all. And to Reginald Curry, just to let you know that my dad got drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals back in '73, but he got shot. He's still living, so he couldn't play. And my uncle played 2 years in Kansas City with the Royals. Mm-hmm. And I turned down being drafted in high school because I wanted to focus on football because I got tired of being compared to my dad and my uncle. So really, baseball was my number one sport. I was nowhere near as good in football as I was in baseball, and I was a pitcher as well. Yeah. Oh yeah. Baseball was number one for me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reginald and my son played together, and they both were. Well, Reggie's son was always he had that 95-mile-per-hour fastball. He could hit two and all the other things, but he was a beast.
That'll do it.
My son was an all-around baseball player, so he just was a 5'2" player. He played probably 4 or 5 positions, and we all thought that he was going to get drafted. At least make it. And about 4 or 5 months ago, he was sliding in second base at Jacksonville State, dislocated his shoulder. Dr. Andrews had put 9 anchors in his shoulder, and he said he didn't want to go back. He said, "I'm done." Now, I'm not mad at him, Reggie, because his plan B is pretty good. He got an associate's degree, a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. He trades Forex, and he just got his real estate license at 23. So I'm not mad at him. He got a pretty good plan B in place. You know what I'm saying? But that's what we thought they were going to do. And because that's what we worked on. Travel ball. You know how much time you're doing the travel football thing now. So you know how much time we put in the travel baseball. Reggie can tell you. We would drop our kids off on Sundays, and wouldn't see them again to the following Friday or Saturday. They took them all over the Southeast and let them play baseball at University of North Carolina, Vanderbilt. Clemson. We just Reggie. I'm still mad at you too, Reginald. But I ain't gonna say it on the show today. I'm gonna say that for a one-on-one. I've been harboring anger with you for about. He's bigger than me, Coach Reggie, so I can't show my anger. I can just harbor it inside. I ain't gonna say it, but it's cool. But Reggie, Coach Reggie, like I said, you told us 30 to 45. You've given us 51 so far. So if you gotta go, I do understand. We're about to change the conversation up a little bit, but we're still gonna talk about the universal nature of fathering, and we appreciate you for all that you do as a coach.
Absolutely.
All that you do for those mothers, all that you do for those young men. And I can't wait to see more and more of your boys coming out and getting D1 scholarships, because you got a 5-star coming up. That's going to say a whole lot about, your organization. Is going to definitely open doors to get 4 or 5. So, man, don't be a stranger. Come back and check us out every now and then. Share our content, man. And like I said, we just have simple conversations. We don't deal with a whole lot of minutia and bull, and we're just trying to help families, man. You know what I'm saying? We're just trying to help fix families by having these types of conversations. And more than anything, Reggie, man, I want to promote reconciliation in the African American community between Black men and Black women, man, so we can start to rebuild and to build. That's just what I want to do. I don't have nothing against no other ethnicity, but I am kind of partial to mine, and so that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So, like I said, if you're gonna hang around, hang out. If not, we're going to move on a little bit farther with Reggie and Reginald and Corey. And like I said, we appreciate you for all that you brought to the table tonight.
Thank you guys for having me, James. I appreciate it. Mr. Curry, Pastor Morris. Man, thank y'all so much. I know my wife. I got my phone right now, do not disturb. So I know my wife probably been calling me. So I better jump off of here and before I get in real trouble.
No, you got to live in that house. Be good, man. We appreciate you for hanging out with us for a little while tonight.
All right, take care, gentlemen.
All right. So we're gonna go a little bit further, gentlemen. I'm gonna get Reggie off the screen. All right. So now we got Reginald and Pastor C. Ray. Now let's talk about this modern day father, because the modern day father comes in various forms. Today's father is no longer always a traditional married breadwinner and disciplinarian in the family. He can be single or married, externally employed or stay at home, an adoptive or step parent, and a more than capable caregiver to children facing physical or psychological challenges. Psychological research across families from all ethnic backgrounds suggests that fathers' affection and increased family involvement help promote children's social and emotional development. Would y'all agree with that? So far? Or did all those words kind of run together, Pastor Morris? I'm sorry. I know I read a lot. I know. Just say yes, I agree. You can just amen me. Trust me out there. But all I'm saying is that the fathering dynamic has changed. It used to be a time where the father would be the breadwinner, would go out and leave the kids at home, with the wife. Now that dynamic has changed. In more recent decades, it shows that the changing economic role of women has greatly impacted the role of fathers. Check this statistic out. Between 1948 and 2001, the percentage of working age women employed or looking for work nearly doubled from less than 33% to more than 60%. Y'all hear that? That's the working class woman. That went from 33% and that was in 1948 to 2001. It went to 60%. I would venture to say that it might even be higher now in 2022. But so their increase in financial power made paternal financial support less necessary for some families. In tandem with the growing autonomy of women, related trends such as declining fertility, increasing rates of divorce, and remarriage and childbirth outside of marriage have resulted in a transition from traditional to multiple undefined roles for many fathers. So in other words, the dynamics have changed. We don't have people getting married and having babies nowadays. Now you got what you call test tube babies, you got fertility clinics, you got all kinds of things that are in place. And some of those things challenge the traditional role of fathers. What do you all think about that? How do you think that has affected? You go first, Pastor Morris.
Yeah, you're talking about the alternative ways that technology has rendered that a child can be born and raised. I think this is what I'm hearing you say. And they do present certain challenges because after the child is here, the context in which they are placed into may not actually be what God intended.
Okay.
And say, for instance, two mothers or two fathers who are married to each other. And we have yet to see what the psychological ramification would be on children who are born into those or placed into those kinds of settings.
Okay.
And, their worldview, those who are born into that kind of situation, their worldview is distorted from what God originally intended for male and female, father and mother, and which is going to present some, sort of challenges in society. It's going to definitely present a challenge to the church and how we reach persons who have come up in that context. There is conceivably a degree of if you want to call it success. Not saying that two mothers or two fathers can't love the child. Not saying that we hope that that's the case, and we don't think that people would want to adopt or go through such lengths, to get the child, then to abuse it. We hope that that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
But even sometimes best human effort still falls short of what God has expected, what He has intended, and which means that there are things that the church still needs to pray for, pray about, and prepare for in the future if we're gonna want for ministry to meet the needs of people where they are.
Gotcha. And we're not just talking about it from that state. We're talking about how it's just not the traditional father-mother role like it used to be. We're talking about my situation as a divorcee.
Yeah.
Single father. Talking about parents father not being in the home. On a daily basis, but still is a parent. That's that's what, just the non-traditional roles of the father, as compared to how, because Reggie, let's go ahead and bring Reginald in now. Reginald, you told us last week how many children, because some people went on that. How many children you say you had?
I got 2 girls and 3 boys.
Okay. And they range in age from 23 to 2.
23 to 2.
And so with that being said, you have had to, and you haven't always, but no, your situation is a little different because all your children have pretty much been in the home with you, correct?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
My oldest daughter, she was in South Carolina along with my used to be my youngest son, Jalen, for a while. But for the most part, Chance and Zay grew up with 2 people in the household.
Okay. So they grew up. And so how did you notice any difference in the other 2 when they weren't living with you and they had to only see you on the weekends? Or how often were you able to see them when they weren't living with you?
That was one thing about being a father. I had to make that sacrifice to be on the road like every weekend. So, but that was a choice that I made to make sure, I was there, whether it was for a teacher conference, to eat lunch with my kids. So I had to make that sacrifice to be there. But, looking on it now, I know it probably did, present a issue because, it's one thing where your kids can wake up in the morning and, say something or need something, and then you can go right on and take care of it, as opposed to just say your kids are 4 hours away. You can't just pick up and get there in the blink of an eye. So, that was something that I had to, learn to understand. So I definitely know it probably did play a major factor in some things, but I think they knew that, I would be there if I could. And if I can't get there in the time they needed me to be there, I'm going to be there eventually. So, that was one of the sacrifices I made, even though physically I may have not been there. But, they knew at the drop of a dime, I'm going to be there every weekend. I'm going to pick you up, bring you down here. So, I mean, that was kind of the dynamic I had, back then. So.
And we're going to, and Corey, let's explore what he just said even a little bit more about that whole piece of that you're not there, to handle immediate needs. That was a tough one for me after my divorce, and that's the detriment of divorce. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you don't have a choice in the matter, when you've been there all their lives and you're able to, they're in the room, they can say daddy, and then you walk in there and automatically see what's going on. I mean, I'm the type of person, I'm like, when I was growing up in my house, my daddy told, I never will forget, I was 21, 22, and I was still at one point still living with my dad. He told me, James, I can't sleep until you come home. I can't, until everybody hits my door. And as a father, that was the same way I was with my children, when I lived in the home. I knew everything that was going on. I could put my finger on you. I could protect you at a moment's notice. But when that opportunity is taken away through divorce, and you still have the responsibility of being a protector, provider, priest, all those types of things. Corey, how have you been able to manage those dynamics, especially with you living in Kankakee for a long time and now living in New York and your children living in Arkansas? How have you managed that?
My predecessor's wife asked me a question, I guess about 3 years into my pastorate at Morning Star in Kankakee, Illinois. She asked me what was the hardest thing about pastoring in Kankakee or pastoring the church. And I think that she was asking me, was the church a difficult church to pastor? And I know that my response to her was something that she didn't expect. And how I answered that question was, the hardest thing about me pastoring Morning Star is that it took me away from being physically present with my kids.
Okay.
Very hard, man. Very hard. When you love your kids, you just want to be there. You just want to be there. You want to be there to protect them. You want to be there to guide them, to direct them. You want to be there to develop them, to watch how they respond to the world around them, watch how they are analyzing certain issues, and watch how they are, discerning of who true friends are, and just to see all of that. I missed out on a lot of that, by not being physically present. And I found myself praying for them more.
Okay.
And then it was a challenge because my kids didn't have, they were too young to have cellular phones.
Okay.
And so they didn't have unrestricted access to me.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to kind of wait till it was convenient for their mom, and then sometimes I maybe would reach out, and the kids went out with her because she was at work or doing other things. So I had to pastor kind of in silence or in isolation. I had to parent in isolation is what I'm trying to say, not pastor, but to parent in isolation, being away from them. And so I found myself trying to I told the Lord about all of this as I was experiencing it and praying for them, and really cherishing the time that I finally was with them, and or they with me, whatever the case may be. But it's possible. It can happen. My kids are good. They're saved. They're women. They're respectable. They have their heads on straight. I got one who graduated from college. I got another one who is in college. And so, they're not loose. They're principled. And so it can happen, but I would be lying to tell you that it won't happen without some sort of challenges and some hurdles to overcome. But when you love them, it doesn't matter. You will do you will do everything in your power.
That's true.
To do what's necessary to father them correctly.
Got you. So, and now that you said that, because you said last week that your children had a good support system in the form of a stepfather along with their mother. Reginald, I want to ask you a question. By your estimation, what is one thing mothers can do or stop doing to support the whole fatherhood experience?
And when I answer that question, I'm thinking more.
Before you answer though. Wait, hold on, right quick, hold on. Ladies in the chat, I'm gonna ask you a question. This is just a quick question. What do you think you can do or stop doing? This is before Reggie answers, because I don't want him to give the answer away. What can you do or stop doing? Ladies in the chat and brothers in the chat too, please answer the question. What can mothers do or stop doing to support the whole fatherhood experience? All right, go, Reggie. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, in terms of me working in education and working with kids, a lot of times when, you're dealing with young men that don't have a male figure in their life, and then you have, women are the only voice that they're hearing majority of the time. I mean, one thing I would ask them, when they call and they always complain, and don't be so quick to always take the side of the kid. Okay. And that goes back to something Reggie was talking about in terms of discipline. Anytime you discipline a kid and they're not used to being disciplined, they're going to always run back and say, this guy's being hard on me. He's treating me differently. So that'll be one thing that I would challenge, the females or women to do, is just, if a guy is trying to teach that young man, and definitely teach him the right way, let him accept that discipline and don't be his bailout. Don't bail him out. That would be one of the main things for me.
Okay. Same question, Corey.
And ask it again, just for clarity.
Clarity. So it says, what is one thing mothers can do or stop doing to support the fatherhood experience? And I want some people in the chat to answer that question. Please, ma'am, please, sir. What's one thing mothers can do or stop doing to support the fatherhood experience?
I guess I would say allowing for adult issues between the adults to interfere with raising the child.
That's good. That's good. Unpack that a little bit more for me, if you would.
A lot of times the children are caught in the middle of a warfare between the adults, and each side knows that that the child is a way to get to the other party, and they use the children as a weapon, you know, or as a tool to hurt the other. And you know, some parents poison the other parent, you know, and create you know, hindrances to the relationship being what it should be for the child's own welfare. And yeah, and so in the terminology of the courts, that divorce eventuates because of irreconcilable differences. So those irreconcilable differences should not be the child's, you know, it shouldn't be what the child has to deal with. They ought to, the adults ought to be adult enough, you know, to keep the children out of those things that led to divorce and do what is right for that child. You know, but if the hurt is still there, if the unforgiveness is still there, if the regret, the remorse, all those things are very active or in the forefront of the thinking of the individual, you know, it's just going to be rough. It's going to be tough for that child.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Let's look at what some of the people in the chat are saying. Lady Karen Hayes says, "Learn to be quiet and allow fathers to have as much time with their children as possible." Racina Gooden said, let me put it up here. She said, "Remember that it's always about the child."
Agreed.
That's good. That's good. Let's see what Shanika Muldrow, did I pronounce that right? Shanika Muldrow, she said, communicate to gain a consensus amongst each other. Oh, that's really good. Before addressing the child to ensure we're on the same page at all times. Mothers and fathers, we need to present a unified front.
Absolutely.
My ex-wife and I were married for 20 years, and I think we might have had one argument in front of our kids. And that maybe one, but we only had 2 or 3 the whole marriage, to be honest with you. But we just kept people out of grown folks, kept them out of grown folks' business. That's good, Miss Muldrow. Next one is, Latasha Goodson says, "Stop talking negative about the father around the children." That's one. Listen, the world already says enough. You hear me? About black men, men as it is. And here we are perpetuating some of those narratives, and that's just not a good thing to do. Miss Muldrow said again, tone is set at the top. If the mother and father are showing up as a team through good and bad, the children will follow suit. They will follow suit. That's good stuff. Y'all don't need us. Y'all already got all this stuff down. Felicia Francis said, "Ladies, just allow fathers to love their children. It's not about the adults. Remove yourself from the children and father's relationship. Thanks, Pastor." That's what we got to do. We talked about that last week. The romantic involvement is over. Stop trying to hold somebody hostage with the romantic. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put it on the screen. What Felicia said. Stop trying to hold somebody hostage because we're still holding on to feelings that used to be. That time has moved on. I respected the mess out of my ex-wife when she pulled us to the side, because I wasn't ready, I ain't gonna lie. But she told the children, listen, we're still Team Kirkland. We just live in separate houses, but we're Team Kirkland. We're still making decisions together. We're doing this together. We're doing that. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I used to have my little moments, you know, when I would call over there, and they were all in the room together. And they were doing something as a family that that we used to do together. Of course, I would have my moments, but as far as the culture that we tried to create for our children, we did as much as we could to insulate and protect them so that life would be as normal as possible, even after. Because guess what? They didn't make that decision. They didn't sign up to be here. So if mom and daddy didn't make it, then it's our responsibility to still set life in such a way where the trajectory is going in the right direction. April Showers also said, what'd you say, April? April said, don't interfere when father is talking to child, stand by the father. And that's vice versa. I believe that. But I think Miss Muldrow said it best. We talk together, we put together a plan, and then when we go before the children, we go before the children as what we say instead of what I say. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have when we have co-parenting, is that the one that's doing the majority of the raising, she wants all. I said she. I shouldn't have said that because I'm not going to point the finger tonight. But we want to kind of exclude and just go ahead and kind of do things our own way. I got another question, Corey. This one is for you.
All right.
What was the most surprising thing that you learned as a father that you learned about yourself during this whole fatherhood experience?
Wow. What was the most surprising thing that I learned about myself? Well, again, there were times where, and especially because I was not physically with them for much of their younger years, I felt helpless.
Oh wow!
Because if any danger popped off, I wasn't there to circumvent it or to protect them. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying to you is that I realized, and I hope that fathers will hear this, even if your children are with you, you need God's help. You need God's help, and I know that we are the ones who are the head of households. We are the ones, biblically speaking, we are the ones who should have, answers, and we are the ones who should be able to provide direction. And oftentimes, fathers, we don't have anybody to go to, and we are left alone trying to figure this thing out. And so, I would just say, to any father in that circumstance, if you feel vulnerable and helpless because you are not present with your child, and if the child's in the house with you, please understand that you need God. Okay. You need God to assist you, to help you. You need God, that you can talk to, and that will provide direction and guidance to you from His Word, through your inner being, through the Holy Spirit that resides within you, and and then too, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. As you said very early on into this session, that their mistakes are going to be made.
Absolutely.
It's, as you think you said, OJT. Well, when the basis of that mistake is still love,
that's good.
The result, when you're praying and looking toward God, it'll still turn out like it needs to turn out.
Talk now.
Yeah.
I'm about to send you an offering. What's your cash app on that one right there? When the basis is still love. Y'all need to tweet that. When the basis is still love, it turns out like it's supposed to. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
That's good. When the basis is y'all in the chat, what y'all think about that? When the basis is still love, I'm typing that. It still turns out the way it needs to. All right, Reggie, same question. What's something that you learned about yourself? What was a surprising thing that you learned about yourself?
Surprising thing that I learned, I think like I said, growing up before, I didn't have a father in my life like that. So I can't recall I ever had a chance to sit down and talk with anybody about anything when it came to, stuff I was dealing with or going through, growing up in Appleton, Georgia. So I think once I did have kids or whatnot, one of the biggest things was just learning how to listen to them and talk to them about things that nobody talked to me about. So, just being there for them, that was one of the things that surprised me the most. Because like I said, I didn't know what type of father I was going to be. I knew what type of father I didn't want to be.
Okay.
So that just played a big part in that. I didn't want to have kids that they grew up and didn't know who their dad were, or didn't have that person around, didn't have me around, or didn't have me listening and giving them advice. But as you know, with kids, they're going to still make decisions. They're going to do things that you don't agree with, but that's a part of them growing up and becoming young men and young women. So that was the biggest thing for me, just learning how to be a father. Because I was afraid when I first had Xavier and whatnot. I didn't know what type of dad I was going to be. But like I said, I always knew what type of dad I did not want to be. So whatever I had to do to not be that dad, I knew I was going to do whatever I needed to do.
Right. So let's go, because this is something that I've noticed with my children, Reggie, and with you having 5, you said 3 girls and 2 boys. I'm sure you can relate to this. I struggle with parents. I'm stuttering. I struggle with parents who raise children like a template. But I believe all children have different fingerprints. They have different thoughts. They have different. So with that being said, you couldn't raise Zay like you raised Chance. You know what I'm saying? Or you couldn't raise I forgot your other boy's name.
Jalen. I couldn't raise Jalen like I raised Zay.
You couldn't raise Jalen like you raised Zay.
Yeah, and I learned that.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about. Did you think you could at first?
Well, I'm always been an athletic person. So, of course, when you have boys, first thing as a dad, they're going to be this superstar athlete. They're going to be this, they're going to be that. That was my thought process because I was all athletic. That's what I did. That's what I was around. That's what they saw. Jalen, if you know Jalen, if you ever heard him speak and heard him talk,
Morehouse man.
He's definitely different than me and Zay when it comes to just outgoing, how outgoing he is, his speech and things of that nature. But when he was younger, and he could probably tell you if he was on, but I thought he thought he had to live up to what Zay did in order for me to be happy. I know we didn't have those discussions numerous times. So, but as I got older and I understood, like Jalen, that's Zay lane. This is not your lane. Choose your own lane. Regardless of what you do, I'm going to be proud of you. You don't have to be this athlete. Now, God knows I did try to make him one. So we're not going to say I didn't. But like I said, as we got older, I understood this is your lane and this is where you want to go. Now, if you choose to be this person, I'm going to do everything I can to get you put you in the right place, give you all the training you need and whatever you want to do. But, Jalen wanted to do something totally different. Wanted to be on Morehouse. He more into politics, things of that nature. So, I support that 100%.
That's good. That's real good. That's good. And I ain't gonna lie, I had to learn the difference because Trey was, you could say what you want to say what you want to do. Trey, it'll roll off his back. Trey wasn't emotional, you watched Trey for years. He had all run and walk around the bases and wouldn't crack a smile. I saw him pump his fist after hitting a home run in college for the first time. I was like, who is that? Because but Kennedy, if you said the wrong thing to her, that lip would stick straight out. You didn't have to spank her. You could just raise your voice enough to Kennedy and she was done. Now Mackenzie, shoot, she's emotional. She's gonna give it back to you like you gave it to her. You know what I'm saying? That's my baby. She just finished high school, in December when she's supposed to be finished in May. You know what I'm saying? Just totally different person that marches to the beat of her own drum. But what I learned is that all of them can be parented differently. You know what I'm saying? I handle them differently. I talk to them differently. I fight my battles. I pick my battles with them differently. Brisenia Goodson said, did I say about Brisenia Gooden said, I'm saying, if I say y'all's name wrong, just let me know I said it wrong. But she said the foundation can be the same, but you learn to parent each child according to their needs and different personalities.
That's right.
But
Right.
and echoing what she said, she is right. But it's the mature parent and the cognizant parent, the aware parent, that recognizes the differences in those children, and then begin. What do you think about that, Pastor Moore?
No, I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. You know, that no child is the same. You know, and so, you know, and I know that our forefathers used to say, "I love y'all all the same," and I know what their intent was in saying that. You know, but each person is different, and so that love is going to require a different approach. It's going to, you know, a different methodology, you know, to reach that child, to give that child what they need. And so it puts the parent always, you know, in adjusting to what that particular, you know, when I think about my grandparents having 9, and I know their personalities, you know, what they had to be to each child must have been tiring.
Wow.
You know, what they had to, how they had to adjust to the growth level of this one, to the growth level, to the maturity of this one, to this one who's in this grade, but then to this one who's in this grade, to this one who's a, you know, female, this one who's a male, and dealing with all of those personalities, you know, and as Versinia said, the foundation, you know, which is on Christ, you know, all of us are, you know, Christian, but adapting and adjusting that to catering that to the specific child can be a very tiring task. Yeah.
But it's a noble task, and it's definitely our responsibility to do it that way.
Absolutely.
Reggie, back at you right quick. 23 and 2. How are you parenting this go round? I ain't gonna say second time around because you got some more in between there. But because I know Chance I watched how Chance had you locked up. I mean, you handled Chance like fine china. You know what I'm saying? That was your baby. You know what I'm saying? At the baseball field and everything. And now you got a 2-year-old. How is that dynamic? I saw you shake your head too. I ain't lying.
Well, I mean, I think like with Ryan, my 2-year-old. I mean,
he took a long break, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Ryan, even it's only been 2 years right now, but just seeing his mannerism and how he's growing.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, I mean, it's a boy.
Okay, I didn't. Okay.
And you know, and then just comparing him to my other kids is like, you know, I see bits and pieces of them and everything he does. So, you know, it's going to be interesting this time around just to see, you know, the development. You know, I definitely know some things to do and some things not to do.
Okay.
So, you know, that's going to be different. And then he reminds me so much of Zay, just athletic wise, because he's so athletic. I mean, this is just at 2. I'm just telling you like things that I see him do and, you know, and things of that nature. But he has mannerism of all the kids, Zay, Jalen, Chance. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I just hope I'm here to see it and I'm able to, you know, witness his growth. So that's one thing. But I mean, you know, just starting over, the scariest part is just how you're going to be a parent in today's society, because so much is able to be introduced at an early age, and they're going to be exposed to so much as a parent. You know, what I may not believe in, you know, the world believes in stuff that we don't believe in. But as a parent, you know, you're trying to prepare them to go out in the real world. Like Pastor said before, you know, some of the things may not be biblically correct, but nowadays you can't really say that, because if you do, you're going to be victimized, or you're going to be, you know, deemed that you're teaching the child wrong or whatnot. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how with him growing up in today's society, how how parents are going to be able to actually really teach him some of the old ways and kind of incorporate some of the new ways and bringing him along. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see.
Because how old are you? 47, 45? Are you?
Nah, I'm 45.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm making you too old.
Yeah.
So, because I'm just looking at that 45-year-old eye versus that 18-year-old eye. You know what I'm saying? Or that 17. Because I know it's a whole lot more patient. That's one thing that I would like to believe. Because I watched Kevin. You know, we had Flight on last week, and Flight. I'm watching how he deals with his 3-year-old. He's so patient. You know what I'm saying? And the things that I wasn't patient with then that might have raised my voice. I stopped raising my voice, I think, as they got a little older. You know what I'm saying? And right now you can't get me to raise my voice. I promise you can't. You can't. When they grown now, bro, that's on them. That's on them. Hey, Corey, Ashley Granberry, that's my co-host on my Monday Night Live show. When we're not doing the boys club or the men only. She has a question. I want you to tackle that question from your perspective. She says, do you think that parents were actually parenting their children differently back then? She said, because she thinks the dynamics have changed and the way things are now may play a part in how we have to parent now. So do you think they parented them a little different back then?
Well, it depends on, I would like a little more clarity to the question.
I think mine parented back differently back then than I did. You know what I'm saying? We just did what it was just go to school, come home. You know, it was kind of mundane. Now.
Well, we live in a changing world.
Okay.
You know, when I was a child, there wasn't one TV in the house.
Okay.
You know, I remember when we had a black and white TV, and my grandmother used to, whenever we wanted to be highfalutin, she'd go get this little piece of plastic, lay it across the screen that would make some color come out of it. You know, when I came along, there were no computers. I remember when my mother brought a computer home from school because she needed to do some work at the house, and I got a chance to peck around on a computer. There were no cellular phones. There was no social media. So yeah, we have more to contend with now, and so yes, we have more to monitor and more to watch and survey, and to protect our children from. So yeah, it's different in that regard. But I think that when I was deciphering the question, there is also differences spiritually, in that a lot of our families now don't have that biblical or Christian foundation. That's different. The communal concept of the village raising the child,
that's good. Yeah,
is now different. Yeah, so I didn't really know exactly what our sister Ashley was what she was targeting, but yeah, we have to. When I taught in the Little Rock School District, the phrase that kept coming up in the teacher training and professional development was monitor and adjust. You would always hear that, monitor and adjust, monitor and adjust. And so parents, we have to do that now. We have to monitor, and then make adjustments. Yes, sir.
That's good. All right, Ashley. She said what I'm saying is that if you were 2 or 12, you all had to do it. It wasn't much of a difference, if that makes sense. Y'all in the chat, answer Ashley's question, if you will. Do you all think that parents parent differently now versus back when we were growing? I'm 49. Pastor said he's 52.
51, man.
51.
Yeah.
51. And we right there in Reginald is 45. So we right back in that 1970, 71, 72, in that range growing up. So some of those on the chat now, that how you were parented versus how you parent children. I ain't gonna lie, I had to make some adjustments in my parenting style. I mean, I was much more lax than my ex was. My ex was much more of a she wanted to be more of a disciplinarian. I kind of was flexible as far as let them do what they do as long as they don't kill themselves, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Let them kind of find themselves, let them figure it out. My son, more than anything, I wanted to teach him how to think. Um, and as long as he was thinking, I was cool. If he called me with a conversation that said, "Dad, you know what I was thinking," that was enough for me. You know, I was good at that point. I ain't even really listened to the context of what he said at that point. I just, as long as he thought, he was man, he had to be man enough to live with whatever his thoughts were. And if it didn't work out, guess what? You know, he got that lesson. He got the power of experience. It does nothing to beat the power of experience. And so trial and error has been good. Now my middle child, a little bit different. I'll talk her through some things a little bit more. You know, the baby, I let her go do what she gonna do, as long as she don't burn the house down like Ashley just said. But she's different. You know, I find it's hard to motivate exceptional children. You know what I'm saying? So you got to kind of keep them busy, or or you got to make them think it's their idea. But my thing is, I handle them all different based on based on my relationship with those children. Because, like you just said, what you say, Corey? You said, I love them all the same. No, you love them all different. You love them the way you love them, and that don't mean you love either one either more or love one less. You just love them how you love them, and that's okay. That's okay. Miss Muldrow, she says, from what I'm seeing, a lot of parents are parenting differently than how they were raised for various reasons. Society, personal beliefs, and technology definitely play their part. I agree with that. Anybody else in the chat? What do y'all think? Are parents parenting differently? And if so, how are they doing it? Like, for instance, I'll give you another example. My son is real good with this whole Forex thing, trading currency and all that kind of stuff. I don't know anything about that. Nothing. So I couldn't have led him to that. I couldn't have shown him how to do that. You watch Corey and Reggie, you see so many people who try to raise mini me's. Now, they tell me that a mini me is somebody who looks like me or kind of has my mannerisms of growing up. But now some of them try to script their children's lives. They want them to do this. They want to go to college where they went to college. They want to do that, have all this, instead of letting them go the way. Like my baby, she told me the other day she made a 1,200 on SAT, so college wasn't a problem getting in college. But she don't want to go right now. And guess what I said? Cool. Don't waste our money. Don't waste your time. Don't do it. I was 38 when I got my first degree. And I got about two and a half, almost 3 now. You know what I'm saying? So everybody kind of does their thing their way. It's our job just to kind of help them navigate. Now, like you said, we're gonna keep control, as you said last week, Corey. We're gonna definitely keep control, and I'm gonna let them run around in the confinements of a certain, box that I let them run around in. Don't get me wrong, because like I said, I'm gonna make them think it's their idea all day long. But I do believe that the way we parent our children has changed. You can even see that evidence in how, like Reggie said earlier, how he handles his grandchildren versus how he handles his own children.
James, it's concerning, man. I'm speaking now as a pastor.
Okay.
And yeah, I agree that, I don't really understand these modern parents who somehow look back on the discipline that they were given and have found the difficulty therein to be an excuse or a reason for why they don't expect the same out of their children.
Okay.
I don't understand that, man. And and this thing, and I know this is not about the church, but you got a churchman on this line, which is
that's why I got you on here, Doc. Come on,
man. But it's fathering too. This idea that I don't make my my kids go to church, and I leave it up to them, and that's very concerning because see, I don't understand how a parent can think that way. As I said last week, what drives me pastorally, what drives me parentally, not in a specific order, but and what drives me as relates to my educational goals and is my end.
Okay.
Is the fact that I know that my days on earth are numbered. And it is concerning to me why a parent would come to church and leave their children at home. They are receiving what they need from God, but you got your kids at home who are watching the internet, who are on their phones, who are looking at porn, who are talking to strangers that they don't even know. They may be being ghosted or catfished or whatever, and they're being fed by all of these worldly ideologies and perspectives and all of this, and that child is not getting what they need from it's just concerning to me. And then what happens when the parent is incapacitated? What happens when the parent, God forbid, is unable to parent because they are sick or in the nursing home or hospitalized? Or what happens when that parent dies? And all of the foundation and understanding and information and development that they could have given that. I mean, it's just like you're pushing your kids to the wolves. It's like you just giving them over, to be a sitting duck as a prey for the enemy. And I don't, I do not understand that. I don't understand it, and it's because somewhere along the way, those parents didn't see or understand what the church is really about. This is not like a social gathering, some place where we go to come together to read a scripture and to clap our hands and to shout and to get to get moments of ecstasy and euphoria, which is the outflow or the outgrowth of what happens when you're in the presence of God. That ain't what it's about. It is putting into your child scripture so that that scripture can mold their thinking, so that their thinking then can biblical thinking can dominate their will, so that they can make right answers when they come to tough places in life, and when they're dealing with people and situations and scenarios, they can navigate their way through that biblically, and live a victorious Christian life, rather than trying to understand what you need to do because you were ill-equipped, because they wouldn't take you to church, or they wouldn't share with you, what the Word of God says.
And that's definitely a paradigm I wanted to explore as a pastor, and you having to be a spiritual parent / spiritual father to so many, and many of them being parents themselves. I can see how that will bother you, but also to answer your question on another level, or to address your question on another level, because so many people despise some of their upbringing. You know what I'm saying? I still have things I wrestled with in my childhood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna put nobody on Front Street, and all that kind of stuff, because you never know who's listening. But I do have issues, you know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't do to my children some of the stuff that was done to me.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And because that wasn't done to me, and because that was done to me, I handled mine. I mean, I probably spanked and I didn't get many spankings growing up. I wish I would get spankings, but I didn't get many spankings growing up. But after a certain age, you probably count on one hand how many times I had to spank my children. You know what I'm saying? Because I just didn't have to do it. I mean, I'll give one thing. For instance, when I used to get in trouble growing up, if I made a bad grade, my mama would make me stay in my room for 9 weeks. With my stepmom, make me stay in my room for 9 weeks. Man, that was solitary confinement. That was abuse to me. You know what I'm saying? It took me to getting 40 years old to realize I had been abused in my childhood. And I'm saying that jokingly a little bit, but I mean it to some degree as well. Okay. So I get it. Some people despise how they were brought up. And because they have that despise it, because you got, and this is what I want you to, we said this earlier when Reggie was on the show, there's a very fine line between discipline and abuse. And so many times, what people call discipline is abuse. I was having a conversation with a young lady the other day, and she said she got so upset with one of her girlfriends one time because her girlfriend, who was raising a son, slapped that boy in the face. And she did it in front of other people. And she said they almost got to fighting because of what she did. Hold on, give me 1 hot second. You can still hear me though. They almost got to fighting because that girl slapped that baby in the face because she totally emasculated that child, right? And so, therefore, of course, if you experience something like that, I'm having to plug my computer up. If you experience something like that, of course you're gonna make sure you don't do that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think there's one panacea or one size fits all answer for that question. You know what I'm saying? But I agree. If you go into church and you leaving your children at home, that does, because evidently you find value in the church. So if you find value in the church, you should be presenting that same value to your children. I definitely understand that. Let's see. Let's read what LaDon said, because she answered the question about parents raising their children differently now. She said, absolutely, parenting is different now compared to when I was raised. As for me and my children, the morals are the same, but you have to adjust based on the individual child and what motivates. That's the key word. What motivates them to be their best selves. That's great, LaDon. That's really, really, really good. So answering that, kind of throwing that question at you, Reggie, knowing how you have the traditional way that you were brought up by your grandparents and the way you kind of implemented some of those things within the context of your experience with your children as a subliminal father to so many children at a high school, how do you implement some of those same traditional values, knowing the differences, in how children are raised now?
Just basically, like I said, you have to kind of know your kids. You got to know your kids, and like I said, I know, like just knowing my kids and being around my kids. When you see them physically or you see their mannerism, you know when something is wrong or something is not right. Okay. I mean, they can put on a good front for everybody else or whatnot sometimes, but when you are around them and you see them, you know when something is not right. And I mean, growing up with my grandparents, I was taught, rather, you don't let anyone see you down. You don't want anybody to see you, as a man anyway, not for the females, but as a man, you didn't, want anybody to see you at your lowest point or to see you vulnerable. And when back then, when they say vulnerable, that was more so showing your emotions, crying, things of that nature. So, I was taught that, you don't show emotions as a man. Now, with growing up and just learning how things are today, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I do think you have to be a man on some occasions, but I wouldn't say don't show your emotions. I mean, just like you was talking about, like with Trey or whatnot, hitting home runs and don't show emotions. My kids was pretty much the same way. I mean, strike out 20 kids, you hit a home run, we didn't show any emotions. That's what you were supposed to do. Now, looking back on it, I probably would have wanted him to be a little more emotional.
Absolutely.
But so like now, like I said, I understand the importance of, of those kids showing their emotion and just listen. A lot of times they just want you to listen. So if you're listening and you just give them a shoulder to lay on or to cry on and just to let them know that you care, a lot of times, you'll get a breakthrough without even knowing you got a breakthrough.
That's good. That's good stuff right there, Rich. I mean, and let me ask this one, because I know you at a high school, and then them little jokers, they smelling themselves now, so they think they're grown, all that kind of stuff. As a parent, how, because I watched it, Corey, I used to go to the North Cobb High School football games, right? And because my daughter was a cheerleader and whatnot, so I would walk around. Every time I heard a child cussing, I'd be like, stop cussing. Stop cussing. Do your mama know you cuss? Stop cussing. Stop cussing. I'm all night long, I'm telling kids to stop this cussing, because that's the daddy in me, and I don't like to hear no little kid cussing all the time like that.
Village.
Reggie, I know you see it all day long in high school.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
You know what? A lot of the kids know, and the sad when I say that, coaches get more respect from the kids than the actual teachers from the majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say that, the majority of the time too, coaches are the ones that they see caring the most and pushing them to do the most. So they have a little more respect for those people. And that, so I see that a lot. I mean, even just like if you walk out, you know, that's like their second language. Yeah. Everything is a cuss word in between every word. But the respect part of it, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I didn't see you standing there. At least you acknowledge that, you know, I'm here.
That's good. That's good.
So if you go to a game, you know, that's all they're going to be doing is like, you'll look around. Wow, y'all really? But I think nowadays I ain't gonna say they've been taught, but they think that it's okay to say things of that nature. They don't think it's disrespectful. That's one part. They haven't been taught that it's disrespectful, you know, to do that around grown people. And I think that's where, you know, the disconnect comes in. They hadn't been taught that that's disrespectful, because if it was, you wouldn't have so many kids doing it.
You're right.
Man, I wish I had them clapping second. That's good. They don't, especially when they're getting cussed out at home all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And every rap song they hear is a cuss word. And everything on the internet is a cuss word. Listen to what Corey said. Corey Myers. Listen what he said. He said, when I was a child, we were to be seen but not heard. Because of the challenges and amount of information the youth are being exposed to today, they need to be heard, and we need to be a place where they are open to share and ask questions without fear or judgment. Man, that's good, Corey. We got it. We have to. We have to, because you know what? These kids know a whole lot more than we know, and they got access to money. Now, they might not have no seasoning now. I had some salt the other day. That salt, it wasn't salty at all. I didn't understand that. It seemed like it had lost its flavor. but some of us got certain type of seasoning that these kids just don't have. They got information that they can't differentiate. They can't disperse. And that's what they need us to help them do, is to help them get to a place where they can make good decisions and all of those types of things. And that's our responsibility as fathers. And that's what I wanted to really hone in on tonight, is our universal nature of fatherhood. You know, Corey is responsible for Callie and Chloe. What's their ages and difference in ages, I mean?
About 4 to 5 years. 4
to 5 years in difference. And, but those are your responsibilities. But parenting them has taught you how to parent others in a certain sense, because you have grown children, you have young children, you got to dedicate babies, you got to bury people, you got to handle families when it comes time for bereaved families and all those types of things. But that nature as a father begins to translate into your pastorate, Corey. It translates into your position as an athletic director / educator, Reggie, because it's just going to automatically make you love children regardless. You know what I'm saying? Man, I don't see how you can love your children but don't love other children. That don't make sense to me. I can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, I mean, that's why I'm at the Bay football game. I never will forget. It was one boy. He had dreads and gold teeth and all this stuff. He about to fight 4 boys. Now, Reggie, we out in the suburbs, first of all. These little boys, the 4, they didn't even know how to sag. They were sagging. They were about this far with their sagging. So that let you know their mom and daddy really didn't let them sag. So they had to sneak their pants down a little bit when they got out the house, right? But this other boy was a straight thug. He about to fight 4 of them, right? And so I helped break up the fight. I walked him over to the side. I started having a conversation with him, right? And so when I talked to him, I said, man, where are you from? He said, East St. Louis. I said, East St. Louis? I said, you a killer. And you finna fight them little boys over there? That ain't even a challenge. Why would you go to jail for that? And boy, when I broke him down like that, he started laughing. And I said, man, let me holler right there. I said, you know why I'm talking to you? He said, why? I said, because I got a son. And man, I don't even know your name, but I love you. And the last thing I want to see you do is go to jail tonight over some bull, over fighting some little bitty boy. Are you serious? His girlfriend broke down to crying. He smiled and he just happy somebody talking to him. Why? Because that's my universal nature as a father. That's my job, to step in And when I see disorder, as a man, I'm gonna come in and bring calm to chaos. I mean, those white. Now it was one that it's. I got to give coach one of the coaches, white coach there. He don't want to lock nobody up. He's gonna try to break up the fight. Y'all go this way, y'all go that way. But a lot of them, they ready to lock you up in a heartbeat. They don't care nothing about you. As soon as you are something that looks like a threat or something that can't be controlled, as somebody said a moment ago, like you said, a man is always one who's in control, who doesn't show his emotion, all those types of things. We were taught that growing up. As soon as they see something that looks like it has the potential of being out of control, their way to control it is try to lock it up as soon as possible. I wasn't going to let that happen. I'm a man. And there was black boys in the neighborhood, black young boys and young kids. I had to step in. And I would do it a million times out of a million because that's just my responsibility. Anyone you want to add something to that? Go ahead, Corey.
You remind me of another James who was a television father on Good Time, James Evans. There was one episode where Mad Dog shot JJ.
I just saw that the other day. Yeah. I saw that episode the other day.
And James just couldn't wait to get to him because he's going to break his finger. He took those cinnamon sticks with him in his pocket. Whenever Mad Dog would say something crazy, he would just take out a cinnamon stick and break it, saying this is what I'm going to do to your finger as soon as we get out of this courtroom. And so, but then as James kept observing his mother, who was Donna, I'm calling her Donna because she was Donna on Fred's son.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so Donna had a son on another show, Mad Dog, and James sat there listening and paying attention and found out that Mad Dog's issue was that he didn't have a father.
Absolutely.
And so when the court case was over and dismissed, and Donna was talking to her son, and Mad Dog was saying, "I'm gonna take care of my little brother. I ain't gonna do like Dad, who left me and left you, and he got me." And so James heard all this, and he, his heart broke.
Yeah.
And instead of breaking Mad Dog's finger, he gave him a big hug.
He sure did.
And was at the point of tears. And Florida was happy, that James' rage was gone because, JJ had been shot. JJ survived. It wasn't a serious wound, but it was a wound nonetheless. And James said to Florida, "What kind of father am I to feel sorry for the boy that shot my son?"
Yes, sir.
And she said, "The right kind, James." That's it. And so I'm speaking to this reality of when fatherhood supersedes your own children.
Absolutely.
And you see there was this, when I taught at Mapleville Magnet Middle School in Little Rock, there was this boy who earned a reputation for cutting up in class and all that. But there was another fella at the school named Ramónt Morris who had earned a reputation for it ain't going on in my class.
Yeah.
And so this fella ended up in my class, and he tried it, he pushed it, and over the course of time, what changed this boy's behavior, what changed his behavior, I never will forget this, was when I told him he had done something good, and that became a reason for me to praise his progress rather than to accentuate all the negative. And I told him, you're a good kid. You're a good kid. And said, you got some stuff going on, but you're a good kid, and I like you. Told him that in front of the class. And man, from that day on, this kid would just want to be around me.
Yeah. You spoke life into him.
Yeah. And he would walk, way out of his way just to walk by my class, just to speak to Mr. Morris. And so Mr. Morris could, now this is a hard cat, little hard little fella. And one day he walked close enough. He, reached his hand out to shake my hand. I just pulled him in, gave him a hug, and hit him on the side of his head, and just held him there. That kid broke, man.
Wow.
That kid broke. And every day he was going to come, so then he was torn between living up to his reputation. See, because acting bad gave him some notoriety.
Isn't that something?
So he didn't want to lose that. He was trying to maintain the bad boy status, but he was also trying to he didn't want being a good kid to cause him to be forgotten about in the school.
Wow. And
so the teachers would, I'd find out stuff would happen. They would just say to me, Mr. Morris, so-and-so, did this in my class today. And I know that, he really admires you. And would you talk to him? And so, when I would talk to him, and so my impact on him began to be beyond my class.
Wow.
And it was in other classes, and, and so it got to the point where the principal found out, and whenever he had a behavior issue, they would send him to my room, in class. And I'd tell him, just sit over there. And it got to the point to where he didn't want to disappoint Mr. Morris.
Isn't that something?
It reminded me of my grandfather, man. My grandfather, one time, I was walking outside with him, and my grandfather he worked full time at the cotton mill, which was behind the house, about 2 blocks. And he was a district treasurer in the district association. He was a deacon in the church. I mean, he had a full plate, raising all these kids, cutting grass at the church, and cutting seniors' yards. I mean, he was just, and my grandfather was tired, and I volunteered to help to do something that I saw him looking at. He had sighed, like it's just too much work. So I volunteered to do it. And when I should have done it, the weather was pleasant. The supplies were there, and I'm in the house watching TV. Man, my grandfather stood over me and said, "I thought you said you was gonna paint the side of the house, Corey." And that man whooped me with words.
Oh, wow.
And I felt, I wanted him, listen, it got to a point, I wanted him to go get the belt and just swing it, because these words are too tough here, and it got the same way with this young man. That, it got to be where he didn't want to disappoint me, because I'm holding him accountable to the good that I know is in him.
Okay.
And I lost contact with him. It was basically just that school year when I had, an opportunity to reach him, to try to impact his life. I don't know where I'd love to hear from him today. But I lost contact with him altogether. But I pray and hope that small window that I had that whole year, that I was able to affect him. And so I am speaking again to the fact that, when you have a fatherly manner about yourself, it's not just your kids.
No, it's not.
You will do for kids that don't, quote unquote, belong to you. Yeah.
That's good. That's great. And Reggie, look, when he was talking about that whole scenario, you look like you could straight relate to what he was saying. Is that, did I see that right in your face?
Yeah, especially when it comes to, like I said, with teachers, most of the time, a lot of the kids that act out in the classroom are acting out for a reason. But, the first thing they want to do is throw them out and, or try to embarrass them in front of everybody else. But, that goes back to what Pastor was saying before. They always send those kids down to the coaches. Go down here.
Or the black men.
Yeah, go down there to your coach. Go down here with that. The kid's gonna come tell you what you do. I was eating a Starburst. Something simple like that. But same thing, man. Come on in here, get your work done. You sit down. You have good conversations. And a lot of times, like when things go wrong in the community or in the neighborhood, or stuff happen, the principal and the police, they come to us. I know y'all can get this information, see what happened, see what's going on, see can we stop anything from happening. Because those kids tell us what's going on. They come and communicate because we listen and we pay attention. And we try to tell them, you're going to give them advice, but at the end of the day, they still going to do what they think is right. But then they'll come back and say, you know what, I should have listened. You was right. It's not worth it. But they don't get that a lot of times. So that's the biggest thing. Like when they hear somebody and it shows, because kids know when you just putting on or when you pretending and you don't really care, you just doing it because it's part of your job, as opposed to them coming in and just talking to you and just sitting there, talking about anything and then just being realistic about it. A lot of times you try to sugarcoat a lot of stuff for the kids. You got to be realistic. I mean, because now, things are happening at such an early age. You can't sugarcoat it, because what you telling them, they can go right on the internet and find something different from what you're saying. So that's the biggest thing, man. Just like Pastor was saying, just somebody to listen and show them that you care. And you'll be surprised how many calls I get, how many texts I get. Thank you, coach, I need this, or even I'm hungry tonight, or and you sending money to kids, making sure they got money to eat or whatnot. Whether they trying to pull, like the kids say now, they trying to finesse you, coach.
They so say.
But at the end of the day, like I said, they know where my heart is, and if I'm doing it out of the good of my heart, then I'm okay with it. So.
That's good, man. That's real good. That's the thing about it. As parents, we don't parent when we feel like it. You know what I'm saying? You can't just parent when you feel like it. If you go parent, you got to be consistent, man. That's one thing that children need, especially earlier in life, is structure. A form of structure, and a whole lot of consistency. It's been some good comments, and we're about to wind our conversation. I told y'all I normally have a little lesson on the side, but that's normally my plan B. So I haven't touched any of the lesson that I wanted to do tonight. But none of the thoughts, and that's okay, because I wanted to really paint the picture of this universal father. Philipsia said something. I was raised with an extended family, and I had a village. We had to respect all adults. She learned from all the adults around her. Today, the adults want to be as cool as the children, so they don't parent. They just, hold on, I'm trying to read all this. They just want to hang out. Where is it at? They just want to hang out. With the young people today. A lot of parents in my generation are not responsible, so they don't put the work in. I feel we all need our community village to help us raise our children. Parents, pastor told us in church, teach your children to stand up when the Bible is being read. It doesn't give me the rest of her comment. But yeah, everything she said is right. Everything is right. But this day, a lot of people don't want you talking to their kids. Now, LaDon said something I think is key too. LaDon said the lack of respect from adults was a hard thing for my oldest to understand in grade school. As parents, we allow our boys to have feelings and ask questions when they don't understand something that they would be disciplined for. I had to explain to a principal that him asking you why is not being disrespectful. How can we expect children to thrive in a society when they have not been taught that it's okay to express themselves in a respectful manner? You're right. That's one of the biggest things with especially Black boys is that they try to control them before they get out of hand. And so that's one of their biggest fears. They want to keep calm before there's chaos. Corey Meyer said he agrees we need to give our children all the tools they need to grow strong enough to sustain the winds of change in the world. We do that, and fathers definitely help. I think fathers really help to navigate that. I love my sisters, and I think my sisters do a great job. But I think that fathering adds another element to it, because Corey was saying something earlier when he was talking about, you teach them to analyze and to look at something a certain way, and that's different. That's a difference, that's a difference, and that's okay. That's okay. That's why I think we need both parents. We definitely need both parents in the children's lives to give them both sides. It's hard. It's hard for a woman to raise a boy to be a man. It's hard. She can raise him, no doubt. She can give him all the tools necessary, all that. But it's hard to raise him to put that. I used to always say with my son, I had to put that dog in him. I had to put that dog in him, because that's just what I was doing. I'm trying to get off, y'all, because we've been on for 2 hours already, and I know Corey's ready to go to bed. Deborah Fortune said, caring is a powerful virtue. Oh, there you go. Here you go. Tiffany Gray said, especially when there should be discipline along with the lesson. The child is obviously needing discipline as correction, but you give the discipline and you explain to them why what they did. I had you. Why what they did was wrong. You got to let them know what they did was wrong. What Corey was saying earlier when he talked to that boy in his class, John Maxwell said something that was powerful. He said, affirmation is like oxygen for the soul. So when Corey spoke into that boy's life, it was actually like speaking to a dead situation and then speaking life into it. And he needed somebody to speak life into him. And sometimes you got to kill them sometimes you got to lay them down before you raise them back up. You got to get in their chest. I mean, I used to work at the alternative school. They brought a little boy in my class one day that he was acting a fool. And I let him ride for about 10 minutes. We went to the lunchroom. Thankfully, it was lunchtime. And right before he walked in the lunchroom, I put him to the side. I said, come into my house right quick. I said, you go in there and act up again. I said it just as calm. I said, if you go in there and act up again, I'm going to snatch a knot in you. And you ain't going to like what you see from me. And I smiled. I said, now do it again. That boy went there and sat down like a little church mouse. But it was a man. I wasn't even a father yet. But I was called to be one. Because now I got him. I got him. But that's something that we have to do. It's something about that. There you go. Corey Myers right there. Look what he said. Look what he said, C. Raymond. He said, it's something about when that bass tone in the voice hits, it's real humbling. It's something about when we put that bass tone on those children, they respond right. They respond right. And that's what they need. Hey, listen, that's what I wanted to do tonight. I'm about to wind this conversation down. The only other thing I really wanted to do that I didn't do, and I might do it again next week. I don't know what I'm gonna talk about next week. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I might do something different. But there were several good ways that good dads are great for kids, because when dads are present and actively engaged in their children's lives, they have better, healthier relationships. They typically have better physical health. They're less likely to become addicted to substances. They're more likely to feel safe and more confident. They have better odds of academic success. They're more likely to stay out of trouble, therefore reduces the cost of policing, criminal justice, and incarceration. In other words, sisters, we need dads. Dads, you're necessary. I want all dads to know that you are necessary. If you're not in your child's life, please, sir, figure it out. Please, ma'am, figure it out. From what we've learned tonight, it's necessary that parents partner together and become. What we learned last week is that we have to be successful at co-parenting, because at the end of the day, the only thing that really, really matters is what? The child. If we got together and we used to like each other, evidently we used to like each other enough to produce a child. We did. So let's be responsible enough to see that whole process through. We got to see it through. Because as grandmama and them used to say, Corey, and I'm sure you can relate, done got late in the evening. And yes, sir. And the sun is going down. And like you said, our children are lured by satanic suggestion on a daily basis. They're going to school with kids with two mommies and two daddies. They're going to people that don't have the moral values. They're going to people that don't go to church. We got black Hindus and all kind of stuff going on now. You got Scientologists and comedics and all kind of people who believe different things. So you have to insulate and protect your children and put some substance inside of them. As grandma and them used to call it, that brown beans and cornbread type of theology, something that sticks to your bones. So that if you eat at 5 o'clock, you ain't coming back in the kitchen at 7 o'clock asking for a snack, because you got some substance that has stuck to your bones, and that's what you need. Hey, Reggie and Corey, I appreciate y'all for coming through for me again. Y'all are great, and I appreciate y'all. Y'all have added so much value to this conversation. Pastor Morris, your hoodie is on the way. It will be there tomorrow. I sent it priority mail, so it will be there tomorrow. Reggie, I see you looking at me like, where my hoodie? Okay, I got you, bro, for real. All I need is your size and I'll make sure I make that happen for you, so you can get that. Anybody else that's listening, I appreciate you all for joining in the conversation tonight. Y'all have added so much value to this show tonight, and I appreciate you, Brasinia, Corey, Tiffany, all of you all that Ashley, who I don't want to, LaDon, all of y'all, Felipsia, I don't want to leave nobody out, so I'm gonna stop. But all of y'all have added so much value to this conversation, and we're going to continue to have these conversations. We want to put the Black man in his rightful spot. We want to put fathers in their rightful spot. And my main thing, and I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face, and it might not ever happen, but I'm going to always say this: if we want to fix our community, there has to be reconciliation between the Black male and the Black female. We got to fix our relationship. Somebody got to say, I'm sorry. And that mainly is us. And when we say, I'm sorry, sisters, I hope y'all believe it. And y'all will forgive us and let us move on so we can start to fix this. Now, if you want to support this podcast, our Cash App is scrolling across the screen. There are several things that we're trying to do as we grow. Y'all see I've changed up my set tonight. I'm sitting on my couch tonight. I ain't gonna lie, I kind of like this. I bought me a different little camera, and I kind of like this setup. I'm trying to be comfortable because we're on for a couple of hours. So I appreciate you all. We're on every Monday night at 9 o'clock. We're usually on for about 2 hours, and we usually have these types of discussions. If you're interested in any other content, you can go back to our YouTube channel. It's called The Intellectual Stew with James Kirkland, and you can see any other show that we have done over the last 6 or 7 months, and you're able to go and see that content. So I appreciate you. Somebody actually hit our Cash App last week, Corey. They actually gave us a little blessing last week, and I appreciate them for that. So like I said, I'm going to start a little partner thing up pretty soon. For those of you all that want to partner, maybe for $5 or $10 a month or whatever, you want to help support this podcast. And I'll scroll your name across the bottom of the screen showing that you are a partner. So if you decide to do something like that, make sure you put your name in the subject line when you send in the Cash App so I can acknowledge you and tell you thank you, okay? So I'm out of here. Reggie and Corey, I know you got school tomorrow, Reggie? Y'all back in school? All right, I didn't know if they kept y'all out or not. Okay, well.
Yeah,
cool.
we back.
Okay, yeah, so that's cool. And Corey, I see you look like you're in your office too. So I appreciate y'all for coming on and hanging out with me tonight. And y'all showed up at a moment's notice, man. And I appreciate y'all for real. So I'm trying to find my little music so I can get out of here right. But I'm late. I apologize. I messed it all up. But it's still 23 people in the chat. Hold on, y'all. Wait, I gotta turn my music on so I can say it right. Oh, there it is. Boom. They're telling us how great the conversation is. Tonight was great. Oh, there it is. All right, so yeah. So everything's great. Good show tonight. Reggie's you the best. Steve Ray Mount, you the best. If you missed the early part of the show, go back and listen to it. We had Coach Reggie, the former NFL player, on it. He talks about his organization. But remember this, whenever I get out of here, I always say the same thing. Remember this, the world is changing. My question for you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all have a good night.